James Sunderland is the main protagonist that the player will control during the events of the game Silent Hill 2. A grieving widower who's given himself over to delusion, James would find his way to this fog-riddled lake town after supposedly receiving a letter from his deceased wife Mary. Certain that this letter was a cruel hoax, but having nothing else to live for in his depressed stupor, he would make his way to Silent Hill, hoping to find his wife Mary alive and well, but instead finding nothing but overwhelming guilt for his forgotten sins.
Mary died of that damn disease 3 years ago. So then why am I looking for her?
The story of James Sunderland, as we know it, begins with very few details. What we do know is that his father, Frank Sunderland, was the superintendent of an apartment building in South Ashfield Heights, suggesting that James may have also hailed from Ashfield, where he would work as a clerk for a small business. Whatever the case, it would be in this hometown that he would presumably meet the crux of his story, a woman named Mary Shepherd. Mary and James would immediately hit it off, and before long they would be engaged and married at a fairly young age, the two becoming ever closer as they decided to spend their honeymoon on the beautiful shores of Toluca Lake in the town of Silent Hill. The vacation was a dream come true, and with the fun they'd had on the trip, Mary would often reminisce about how much she loved it, telling James that one day she wanted to return. Unfortunately, however, that chance would never come, as not long after their perfect getaway, their idealistic life together would be cut short. Mary would come down with a mysterious and debilitating disease shortly after the pair returned home. She'd shown signs of the illness before, but in the wake of their vacation, it had grown much more aggressive to the point of her becoming bedridden. For James, this development was world-shattering. Their hopes, their plans for the future, all taken as the doctor's diagnosis became bleaker and bleaker, and his once beautiful wife lost herself to fear and anger.
Well, what are you looking at? Get the hell out of here. Leave me alone already. I'm no use to anyone. I'll be dead soon anyway.
Mary was changing, her once matronly and pleasant demeanor now being meshed with aggressive outbursts about how pointless it all was. The looming fear of death that was now all but inevitable, causing her to lash out at James, who was becoming more and more distant as her illness worsened. He would still visit her, but the sickness had ruined their once loving relationship, the strain growing ever greater as the doctors would send her home to live out the remaining time in comfortable surroundings, a decision that would prove an absolute catastrophe. Without the buffer of the hospital, Mary's outbursts would prove too grating for James as he began to wish for her death. She had been meant to walk the path of life with him, but now was nothing more than an obstacle in the road. He longed for it just to be over, and as she claimed the same, he would decide to give them both the rest they deserved. Taking a pillow, he would smother the love of his life in her sleep. Mary struggling, but she was in no state to fight back, her body falling limp as silence permeated the broken home. However, while James had hoped to find a new life at the end of this deed, instead he found nothing but crushing guilt. It was true that Mary's death was inevitable, but he had robbed her of what little time she had remaining, and for that he would lose himself to depression, his mind becoming so wrought with sin that he would undergo a kind of temporary insanity, and in his broken state, the town of Silent Hill would call to him. With the plan of taking his own life, James would drive to the town of Silent Hill. However, once he arrived, a sort of amnesia would befall him, and a letter from Mary would appear in his pocket. The note saying that she was waiting for James in their special place, but where was that? And didn't Mary die 3 years ago? These questions leading the broken man on a mission around the former streets that held such happiness, as he rediscovered the fate of his late wife. James Sunderland is one of the most tortured men that can be found wandering the abandoned halls of this decrepit town. A former doting husband whose world would be shattered by the hands of fate, James would find his way to Silent Hill without regard for his own well-being. On some level, he knew that he needed punished, and as he faced the monsters in the deepest recesses of his mind, the town would make them manifest. James isn't an evil man, but he is certainly steeped in sin. A sin that this town will ensure he atones for.
She died because she was sick.
I killed her.
Killer! Why'd you do it? I hate you! I want her back. Give her back to me. I knew it. You didn't care about her. I hate you, James! I hate you! I hate you! I hate you! She was always waiting for you. Why? Why?
I'm sorry. Mary, you know, isn't here.